Thank you, everyone. It's a huge pleasure to be here today with you. And I wish I actually attend this in person, but probably in October when I come from for Chicago Marathon. But anyway, ShapesXR is actually the journey, and it took me 4 years to realize that we have to build a platform that would enable better apps, high quality apps that truly feel like natural for this new medium, and also unlock this to people who do not know Unity or Unreal, but like no coding skills required to present your concept and your vision. So basically, after building for XR for almost 4 years, I realized that we have to solve the content problem. And the content problem is such that building content for the headset or glasses on a flat screen is quite a challenge. And there is a big gap when you put that to the headset, and a lot of great ideas just get buried because of that. So if you go to the next slide, because I can't do that. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I have I'm a computer scientist by education and have corporate background, but I was thrilled when I tried the headset almost 8 years ago. I mean, it was absolutely clear to me that this is such a powerful new medium that is gonna totally change the way we work, we entertain, we learn. And it was so clear because you kind of inside 3D, you are at actual human scale, and this can unlock so many use cases that are absolutely not possible to do on a flat screen. So what about shapes on the next slide? So the initial vision almost 4 years ago was that, XR apps need spatial creation tools. So if you build an experience or virtual game, it makes total sense to envision that in a headset. So inside 3D, because it's not just 360, right? It's a lot about the spatial relations, where your UI is going to be, how the user is going to interact with that UI. How can you make sure, because you can't control where the user is going to look at. So there were like so many very specific problems to this medium that I was waiting when someone built that, but then we built Shapes and released it on store in November 2021, just like 2 weeks after Facebook became Meta. And eventually, a lot of use cases evolved, which is very inspiring for the real world design as well as XR apps. Because when we speak about spatial 3D, there is a lot in common, right? Because our XR content is spatial 3D, right? It's not flat screen 3D, but our real world is also spatial 3D because, I mean, everything has scale and distance. So it doesn't matter if you're building, healthcare training. For example, you ask like, what else can we do in healthcare, right? Not just the training for the surgeons. I mean, one of our clients is planning a hospital in VR because it's super important for them to envision, how the whole, user journey is going to look like in a hospital, and like enough distance, plan the surgery room and all that stuff. So basically kind of mixture of architecture and planning, space planning use case. But the whole kind of think about Shapes is that this is no code creation tool. It's collaborative, and collaboration is a huge power of Shapes, meaning that it can be 20 people ideating together and then creating a prototype, and then you can bring your users in and you can test your prototype, and you can only build later on in Unity or Unreal the idea that is proven, that you're really confident that this is going to be so meaningful to run in a headset. And it's also cross-platform. So the market is very challenging. And at some point, to extend people's time in Shapes, we also built our web version. So you can be in a headset. Some people can be in web, and you can still create together, and you can present. And if you go to the next slide, so that I'm kind of on time. Yeah, so it's already kind of a proven tool, and some incredible apps have been designed and prototyped in Shapes by bigger studios like Cluj Interactive, like ThinkWriter, incredible game. And we have a bunch of case studies that explain why Shapes speed up the creation design process, how it helps to decrease the risks of launching your app, how you can run user tests before you actually go to Unity and build like just one idea. famous apps like Trip and FeedXR, and also like Shapes enable indie teams. And by indie team, I mean like 2 people can build an app and launch it on store and even get a shout out at MetaConnect. And I'm talking here about like apps like Pencil or Piano Vision. So these are very, very small team, but thanks to Shapes, people without Unity knowledge, they could envision their app and then really save a lot of time in developing that app in Unity. And we have Unity plugin, and we can dive into that if you're interested. If you go to the next slide, and then when Shapes matured, basically they were like absolutely new market for us that we didn't plan initially, and but it makes so much sense. This new market is real world design, meaning that, for example, what Logitech did, that was a real world gaming conference, a huge gaming conference that took place in Germany. And the whole idea was like, how can we envision the venue, the booth of every sponsor before we build that in real world? So basically they used Shapes to uh, build like a digital replica of that venue, which is again not a typical venue. It has a lot of futuristic type of booths, and then they invited their sponsors, companies like Puma or McLaren, in Shapes, and they were presenting the vision to them. Or you can like collaborate and plan your real world store and decide where items should go, and you plan like large scale events. I mean, it was surprising, but this is what enterprises are adopting the platform for. Okay, I
And
think that,
sorry to
yeah,
yeah, so I think we do
we
have
out
to
of time. Let's just
yeah,
go to the very, very briefly to the
yes.
video. And it's a very, and we can switch the sound on. I think it should start playing, just to show you how the creation process is happening. Again, very accessible. I don't know if it's playing. I don't see it.
There we go.
Okay, yeah, music is not required here, so you can switch it. Yeah, so just example of like how people can build games, and this is Mania, a beautiful mixed reality game that was released on MetaQuest Store. Yeah, the music is still on. And then they build entire UI system and interactions in Shape. This is another example, like Adidas, immersive experience, AR experience that was built, I mean, and prototyped in Shapes. Um, yeah, but anyway, so we just show here in this video various use cases. It's very horizontal tool. You can think of it as like immersive 3D interactive PowerPoint. So, and yeah, so I probably stop here, but I really appreciate your attention.
No, that's great. That's great. Thank you, Inga. And I know we don't have time for too many questions, but I do have I guess I'd love to hear what do you think is the most compelling use case or applications of Shapes XR that you have worked on and why?
Yeah, I mean, initially we thought that XR apps are the new mobile apps. So if you build any type of apps that is going to run on a headset, then Shapes is your go-to tool. I mean, this market is still nascent, so we like building game level design is a big kind of deal. But if we talk about real traction and monetization for Shapes, that's when people are building, trainings and also various type of kind of like training is a big portion of what companies spend money into, and still it's enterprise market for us. And I would say that on top of training, that would be like planning showrooms, planning real world large scale environments. And by the way, universities, we have 200 universities that applied for Shapes licenses, and they introduced the tool as the future of design, to their curriculum.
That's exciting. Well, I know there's going to be time for more questions following everybody's presentations. Thank you, Inga. This is really exciting.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Caroline, you got
All
time
right.
for one more question if you want with Inga.
Oh, okay, great, great. Well, so I guess I wanted to ask, when you are first sitting down with, and it really depends on the prospective client, but how are you helping them to get started? What is this sort of ground zero?
Yeah, so basically, Shapes XR is like a tool. You can think of it as a Figma or PowerPoint. So we have the free version on MetaQuest Store, and people, a lot of like how it started, they discover Shape, they start using it, And then if they want to become really power users, we offer trainings, and we have like onboarding tutorials, and we spend time, with companies trying to have design critique sessions with them. So we never had any services before. We just launched services this year because we realized that adoption for any emerging tech, whether that's AI or XR, for large enterprises, they do expect that you help them kick off that initiative before they start hiring a lot of XR designers in-house. And with that, I mean, we now kind of help them build, their like digital twins, replicas, or environments. But then Shapes is a very intuitive tool, and we assume that they do any customization or they use the platform as is. So if you can learn the PowerPoint, how to make a PowerPoint presentation, most likely you will be able to build 3D immersive, interactive presentation in Shapes.